Good afternoon everyone, welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. Today for me is Sunday, and Sundays I normally do a bit of an update, chat, that sort of a video to catch up on the week. I have had I had last Sunday's chat video and one yesterday or the day before or whatever, where I was talking through the Q&As and stuff. So this is probably unnecessary, but I kind of like to keep the schedule of doing a Sunday chat, so I'm going to do that. So I did forget to show you guys the seed staging area, which is what I'm standing in now. I mentioned that I was going to show it to you, and then I forgot. So I wanted to show you that. I'm going to, after I finish this, I'm going to stand out here and do the voiceover for my most recent What We Eat in a Week for the last week, and I'll do the voiceover for that and edit that up and get that out in the next couple of days. And other than that, what was I going to show you? I've got a clip here that I'm going to put in of Apollo with Whistles, the duck that we saved from the duck pen that we found outside of an egg, because it's super cute. So I'm going to add that in here as well, and basically just have a chat about things that I went over last week and all that sort of stuff. But first I'm going to show you the seed staging area, because if I don't do it now then I might forget again and we don't want that. So I'm going to turn you around and show you what we've got set up from the front door. So the area is still very much a work in progress. This section of the garden, we expanded out here and then failed this year at the expansion basically, so we're still working on that. But so we've got this seed staging area set up out here. We've got our very dead looking strawberry beds and raspberry beds because we had the issues with the grey water, which I will go into later too, because we don't have grey water again at the moment. But anyway, I will get to that. And we've got a couple of arches here which we normally grow Tromoncino, Kajari melons, normally some borage in between them and things like that. We did have the citrus trees in pots in the middle of the arches last year before we potted them out, but garden season this year has just been nothing, so I've ended up killing everything, and at the moment we're just overrun with grass, so we're going to be working on that. But this is the new seed staging area. So the secondary solar array is over there, which means that if I decide to put heat matting or anything in this, though it's not a hot house, it is a greenhouse, we'll see what I plan to do, then it's right by the inverter there so that I can plug things in. And then behind me is the water tank and the old hothouse structure, so that allows me to access water with the watering can there. It doesn't have a pump on it because we use it for our gravity fed watering, and this building here will eventually be all built in properly. It was the old hothouse. It didn't work real well, basically because we did the roof too high. That's the short of it, is that the roof was too high. It didn't hold heat very well, and it never worked quite the way we intended it to. So we're turning that into the guest room basically, or potentially an office when you don't have people staying. So we're in the process of doing that at some point, probably not high on the priority list, but that is what we're doing. So we've got the water tank and everything there nice and close to and that's where the potting table was before, which is why it's a mess, and then back through to here, and then so this is where the seed staging is. So in the seed staging space we had this screen door, so that's what we've used, and I'm still getting it set up. So for the moment we've got the big metal shelves in the middle here, which are going to work really well for starting seeds on, but once the seeds have germinated, not going to work so well, I've discovered. It's just a little too shaded right in the middle here, and the seedlings were reaching for sunlight, so we've moved them over here. What we've done is these are the little mini hot houses that we had, the shelving from inside, so we've turned them into the size that works for us. So I've got 3 different shelves here to put my seeds on, and as you can see, this is cucumber. They got a little leggy and we're reaching for the sun, because that middle shelf just wasn't in quite the right spot. So it's fine. I just will repot these up a little bit earlier than I was going to give them a little bit more depth before they go out into the ground. Cucumbers actually don't really like being potted up. They prefer to be direct sowed, but because we've had so many issues with bugs and stuff eating all the seeds, I decided to give it a go this way, because I don't know whether it's worthwhile trying to direct seed, but also I'm a bit slack with watering when I direct seed, and whereas I can bottom water in these trays as well as top water and keep an eye on the moisture, I also have the tops for them here too that I've been putting on at night, because nighttime temperatures have been dropping down to like 10 degrees. So I've been putting those on at nighttime. I've got a tray here with some different silver beets and kales, and again they started reaching for the sunlight when they were in the middle, so obviously that told me that that middle rack is no good once they've sprouted. I kind of thought silver beet and kale germinated in the same timeline, but they mustn't. I'll have to look that back up, because we've got two little kales here but not much else yet, and all that silver beet has come up, but that's fine. We can pot things up as needed. So I've done that. So yes, we've got, let me step back. So we've got those two shelf units there, and I've got them up off the ground so that I can use that bottom shelf as well. I think it's really stupid that these units, I've got them upside down too, but I think it's really stupid that these units have a shelf basically on ground level. Like, you don't want to put seedlings on ground level. But anyway, we've got the middle shelf, the shelf in the middle here, which is the big metal one, which will be, as I said, work really well for putting the seedling trays on initially. And then I've got another two of these smaller ones over here on an old wooden bench. I attached them before thinking about turning it upside down, which is why the other one's upside down and these ones aren't, but that's fine. And I did start a tray of tomatoes, mostly cherry tomatoes, and there is a few that have come up, and we shall just see what happens. Don't know, it's worth giving a shot. A tray of basil, but again, I don't know if it's going to be hot enough for it to germinate or to do anything, but if I can get some basil this season, then I'll be thrilled. And then we've got back to our autumn veggies. These are all cabbages and things like that. And then I do have a tray of peppers. Again, I think it's too late. I don't think it's going to be long enough to really get anything out of it, and I don't know that they'll even germinate properly because of the temperatures, but I'm going to give it a go because it can't hurt. So we'll give it a go. So we've got these shelves here as well. The idea then for the gap, so we've got a gap on that side and a gap on this side, is that I'm going to put some cracky containers in here. So before I get to that, I'll show you the back end. So we did get the potting table in. So this is the potting table that I built myself. There's a tub that goes under there to catch the soil as well. It's out in the yard because it had some soil in it, and the soil had some slaters in it, so I need to move that soil elsewhere. But in the meantime, this is the potting table, and then I've got one of the set of shelves here for me to stack all my supplies on. Obviously this isn't all of them at the moment because I've only just started moving stuff in here, but we already have a collection of spiderwebs between things because, you know, it's Australia and they're black plastic. But yeah, other than that, this is the potting table, so it should be good. It's a fairly large space. The camera's in here because I'm going to do that voiceover for the what we eat in a week. So yeah, plenty of space to move around and to stack stuff up and get things sorted. So I'm pretty happy with that. We've got those, so you got all those shelves there, shelves in the middle and the shelves on the side. Middle of summer or, you know, late spring, then this middle shelf probably get plenty of sun for certain things, but I could also look at hanging some lights underneath it if I really wanted to use the space, because as I said, the solar array, so that's the solar array building there, and the inverter and stuff are on that wall, so I can run a cord to here if I decide I want to do that for heat or whatever else. I did consider doing some automated watering too for spring, not so much for this sort of stuff because it's less quantities, but for spring maybe. So in the gaps, what we can do is cracky beds. So I'll try and find some photos and I'll put some photos up. But when we first moved out here and we had really limited garden space, we did a lot of hydroponic style growing, but we did it in what's called the crack key method, which is basically a stilled water method. There is no reticulation, no, you can put an air stone in there to create some oxygenation in the water, but basically you have the seedling pots just far enough off the water that the bottoms are dangling in the water, so the roots grow down, but there's oxygenation between where the water level is and where your floating top is. You can have a floating raft or you can have a solid, whichever way you want to do it. And you use a nutrient solution in there. We used Master Blend that we imported, but it's not easy to get anymore. I do watch a channel called Hoochos here on YouTube, and he does a lot of hydroponic type stuff, and he uses a Campbell Special brand, and I think that's what I'll give a go because it seems to be fairly easy to obtain here. So once I grab some of that, I do have some Master Blend left in the drawer though, so I can use some of that in the meantime. But we're going to use probably just black totes with we've got floating foam rafts that we use. You put little holes in it, you put net cups in there, and you grow things. So the idea is that I might try doing some lettuce and some greens and stuff in here, because they will be protected from the frost for quite a while, because we only get mild frost to begin with, and lettuce and that will tolerate mild frosts if they're somewhat protected. Sometimes it really depends on the varieties, but things like kale do fine in frosts and stuff like that. So we might try, we're going to plant some out in the garden, but we might do some in here as well. The benefits of that is that everything grows pretty quickly and you don't have to water it because you start off with the right amount of water. So like one head of lettuce uses approximately 5 litres, approximately 4 or 5 litres, I think it is. I think it's about a gallon, so about 4 litres, about 4 or 5 litres worth of, because everybody does everything in American and that's where I learned from. I think it's a gallon, which is about 4 litres. So 4 or 5 litres of nutrient solution for a head of lettuce. So you put it in a container that has enough nutrient solution that you don't need to do anything with it. So you do half strength nutrient solution for things like leafy greens, and you put it in the bucket or the crack-free bed or whatever you're using. And if you have enough fluid in there for the whole grow, then that's great. You don't have to touch it. Basically, you just leave it alone. In summer, we did have some issues here with what we were doing because the water got really hot. So the water in there, because it's not reticulated, it got quite hot in its stationary position. But from this point forward, we've got a couple of days in the near future, in this week, that are supposed to be up to 37, 38 degrees Celsius. But from that point forward, we shouldn't really go above the 35, which is not too bad. And then it'll continue to drop from that point forward. And because our overnight temperatures are getting quite low, then things will cool down overnight, warm up during the day. It should be fine. So the plan is to do some of those cracky beds in here as well. We did buckets and beds and all sorts of things. I said I'll put some photos in here when I'm sure I can find some initially, and they did work wonderfully. But we started off with minimal knowledge, like everything we do, and things like certain things that we grew some zucchinis in buckets and things like that. But you had to top up the fluid underneath. It wasn't enough fluid for the whole grow. And if you don't mix the fluid right because the fluid has been depleted of some nutrients by the time you're topping it up, and then if you put too strong in there, it burns the roots, and there's a lot to it. So we've learned a lot more now, and we're going to give it a go. We sort of moved away from it because we were hoping to just have a big market garden styled garden. These straight row beds full of plants, the drip irrigation and everything else, but it just hasn't worked for us. So maybe it's a bit of a pipe dream for our climate. Maybe it's just not feasible. So maybe we need to integrate some other methods. So we thought about getting a couple of half IBCs as well and doing some wicking beds for next year. We'll try some of these cracky beds. We will still continue to do things in the ground, especially we've had huge success with zucchini and tomatoes in the ground previously. So going to keep doing that as well. And we're just learning as we go. I don't think you ever stop learning when it comes to gardening. Like every year gives you something else to learn from, something else that either goes wrong or goes right that you can then use to learn from as well. So the hope is that eventually we get to a point where even though we're still learning, we're also succeeding. At the moment we're learning and having lots of failures, but we will get there. And this is a good start. Having this seed staging, it's completely sealed. It's sealed at the ground. Everything's sealed to the frame. The screen door is sealed into a box so that nothing can get underneath the screen door either. we will see how the structure holds up, but having the box frame at the front will help, and we actually have the box frame attached to the fence posts behind us as well to create some more structure there. So we will keep on pushing on, progress not perfection and all that sort of thing, and we will get there. But I'm really happy that we've got this going and that I can start some seeds and feel semi-confident that we might actually get them to the point of being able to put them in the ground, because that has been the problem before now, is that every seeds that I started, they would start sprouting and I'd come out the next day and there'd be nothing left. So even if I can get these seeds to the point of potting up or being able to plant out, that will be progress. That will be something that I haven't been able to do so far. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so that's the garden update, seed structure. There's nothing actually in the gardens other than what's already been there. That watermelon plant is still huge, but there's no watermelon on it. And I've been harvesting all the onion seeds as they've come up. I've got one zucchini plant, but no zucchini on it as yet. I've let the beans dry out. The beans that I was harvesting from, I've let the bean pods that have last come up, the last flush of them, dry out so that I can harvest the seeds for those as well. And that's pretty much it, other than the herbs right down the end. The lavender and the rosemary and all that is still going great, so that's fine. The fruit trees, I was going to give you an update on the fruit trees. A couple have had some damage with the really hot weather and the interim period when we didn't have the grey water set up. Oh, that's the other thing too I need to talk about, is the grey water. But some of them are doing all right, some not so all right. So we will have a look out here. I'll turn you around. So like this orange tree has really recovered. There was a big hole in the bottom where something was digging into it, and obviously we've managed to get that away and all the rest of it. We've got heaps and heaps of new growth on this. We've got one little orange sitting here which I've let go because it's a single one, so I thought it's not going to do too much damage, but we've got flowers and stuff coming up too, so that's really nice that that's got all that extra growth, and we will just let it go for the moment. We tend not to interfere too much. We probably should prune a little more than we do, but we are not particularly knowledgeable about fruit trees, so we're still learning as we go, like with everything else. And the apple trees are in various states, but they all have new growth, and that's the main thing. So we've got new growth coming up at the tops of each of them. It's healthy enough looking. The leaf cutter bees are still shredding some of the leaves, and there's some sun damage and some lack of water, but they are all getting this lovely new growth. So we will see. I'm sure Bobby will give me some feedback on these once he sees this video, but I'm okay with how they're going. They haven't done fantastically this year. They looked like they were going to, and then we had all the issues with the water and everything else, and they didn't. But we do have new growth at the tips of just about all of the points, and that's a win to me. So some look better than others. Some are ravaged a bit more by the leaf cutter bees than others, and that sort of thing. But we've got lots of new growth points here and stuff too, so, but lots of bugs as well. I don't know. The crabapple lost a whole lot of its leaves, but it is flourishing again now, but it's also flowering. So but the crabapple got really huge last year and really hasn't taken much height at all this year. So, and again, we haven't pruned anything, and we probably really need to prune some of these lower branches off because we're not going to want branches that low. But I've been hesitant to do too much to any of them because none of them were progressing real well. So, but some of the apple trees, like this one's gained a good lot of height. This one has gained height every year. It's a nice, got some good new growth at the tops as well. But the leaf cutter bees obviously really like the leaves on this one because in some spots they pretty much have no leaves. So yeah. And we've got this one here originally was a cherry tree, and it died, but we left it in the ground, and this has grown up out of the rootstock, and I have no idea whether it is rootstock tree or whether it is cherry tree, whether it's it's graft that's grown or not. I'm really not sure where it broke off, so we've decided to just leave it and we will see what it does. So the other citrus tree here is still doing okay. This one looks pretty good. And then we've got the peach trees as well that are doing okay. We do have this other orange tree that has been struggling. It doesn't seem to matter what I do, it still seems to be struggling, but it has uncurled a lot, so a lot of the leaves have uncurled. I keep on trying to prop it up to the stake, but it doesn't really like to be on the stake, so I'm not real sure, but we will just keep coddling it and see how we go. Now, the problem area was up here because the grey water didn't go this far initially, so we ended up with issues with these trees. So the feijoas died off, but we have a lot of new growth, so we will just prune it back if that's what it takes and start fresh this year. But there's plenty of new growth on the bottom of the feijoa, so hopefully it will recover. This one here is the same. It's lost a whole lot of its branches, but we've got a whole lot of new growth, though it's looking a little warm today. But this one we may have lost completely. It doesn't appear to have any new growth anywhere at all. So and the pear trees are both getting lots of height, but we haven't been able to get that fungal thing under control. We've tried coppering and it hasn't worked yet, so we will see how we go with those as well. So they're doing all right, but not fantastic. And you know, this space still hasn't been cleaned up. It's supposed to be cleared up and then weed matting and wood chips put down and stuff, but it's just doesn't seem to make it onto the priority list, unfortunately. But so the native grasses and stuff are really starting to overtake again. I did notice that the finger lime is struggling because of it's a low. We do have the comfrey has come back, which is nice, so I should be able to divide some of that for the other trees too. But yeah, the finger lime here is really battling. There's something's got a web all through that, and then it's getting a bit lost because of all the grasses. So I wonder if Darryl forgot that one was there, to be honest, because it doesn't look like there's a water line on it either. So I'll have to remind him of that one. So the other thing is that the water line came from our bathtub. That's the grey water that we're using. It's going through the grey water system, but it's water line from the bathtub. Now we have just pulled the bathtub out of the bathroom because we're redoing the floor in the bathroom, hopefully before it cools down too much. Now, problem is that the drain underneath the bathtub was what was going to the grey water. We're now using a tent to shower in. I'll put a quick photo up here. I put it on my Instagram and Facebook if you follow me there. But so we're using a shower tent again, which brings back not so great memories because we had to use a shower tent in winter when we first moved out here, but it's fine. So we're using a shower tent at the moment while we redo the floors and stuff in the bathroom, because the bathroom was never a bathroom. The bathroom is just a room that we used as a bathroom. So we've been using it for the last 4.5 years as a wet room, and it really was never meant to be a wet room. So there's some issues with it. So we're redoing the floors, and the shower is out on the shower tent, but it means that we can't run that water to the grey water because we've got it just rolling out into the grass at the moment because it's not up on anything. It's not above anywhere that we can redirect the water. So there's our tree watering water that's not being used at the moment. So hopefully it won't take us too long, but it could be a couple of weeks. So in the meantime, we've redirected the washing machine water through the grey water. We just need to make sure that we're not using anything but a bit of vinegar in it if we need to use anything, so no bleaches or anything like that. And if we do have to use any of that, then we need to redirect the water away from the grey water. But it is pretty diluted. We use grey water safe detergents and things like that, so hopefully that then going through the gravel baffles will collect any of the other stuff, and we will just see how we go. But hopefully that water won't do too much issue with the trees. As I've said before, I don't find it too much of an issue with the trees that the water isn't clean, because we direct the water into the little indent around the trees, and there's lots of dirt to filter that as well. It's not like we're pouring, and each tree is only getting a portion of that water as well. So hopefully it'll be all good. We will watch them for the next few days. Darryl did washing today, so theoretically some of that came out here today. And so every day I'll just come out and make sure that there doesn't seem to be any adverse effects from that. But at the same time, they need water. And if we're not using the bathtub water, then we kind of have to use something, don't we? So that is the fruit trees update. They're doing okay. Nothing is particularly thrilling me about the garden in any way this year. But there's some progress there with the trees, and each year will be more progress. But it would be really nice to get to a point where it actually feels like we might get fruit the next year. So obviously there's not enough progress this year that I expect to get fruit next year. So hopefully if we coddle them a little bit this year, at the end of this year and before spring of next year, we remulch them, refertilize them, and prune them and all the rest of it, that maybe next year's growth will take off, and then maybe I might get fruit the next year. You never know. That would be the goal, though, is to eventually actually get fruit. That's why you have fruit trees. But anyway, it's just, it is what it is. So that was about it, I think, that I wanted to share. Other than that, I'm still just plodding along with the mugs, I did that squirrel design that I showed the other day on the clip. So I'm looking at getting that done. I'm also making up some bread bags for myself, because I really need a cotton bread bag to put my bread in. So I thought maybe I might put something on a bread bag. All these sorts of little bits and pieces that I'm going to do for myself, I may as well do for other people. So we will get that sorted. The shop or wherever we do it through. I was discussing the fact that anything like that probably needs to go through a third party to anyone in America, because shipping would be kind of pointless. So if anyone has or has used any of those companies like Printify and all those sorts of things where you use them as a third party, so I think there was Spring, a lot of people on YouTube use. So if it's worth using one of those places, I'm still going to hand make some stuff, because we do that anyway. That's part and parcel of how we do stuff on the homestead, is we hand make stuff for ourselves. And the idea was that I could hand make stuff for other people too. Within Australia, most people aren't going to want to pay shipping to America, especially for something that's breakable like a mug. So if you know Creator Spring or something, I think the other one was called. Anyway, if you know of one of them and you think that, and you can recommend them, then let me know. I'm still working on the whole concept about Patreon versus the membership group on Buy Me a Coffee. Someone suggested a company called Ko-Fi, which I hadn't heard about, which is very similar to Buy Me a Coffee, but it doesn't have any fees, which is a bit strange. I noticed that YouTube rolled out memberships this week too. I got a notification that I could have memberships, but from what I've seen, I looked at other people with memberships, and you can either make your videos private, which I don't want to do, or you can make it so that people who are members get their videos earlier than other people. But I'd have to be kind of on time for that. And my schedule isn't real great, so I don't know that would work real well either. So I don't know. It's still up in the air. I know it's been a whole week, but I still haven't got anything settled, so I will let you know. I have been working on the website. I really want to get at least a couple of pages completely done so that you can refer to them for some recipes, or maybe some of my affiliate links and things like that. So when you're looking to buy something that I already have, that you can check in case there's an affiliate code or whatever. For anyone who isn't aware, I do sell, I'm a consultant for Thermomix as well, and this month they have upgrade special. So if you have an old 31 model and want to go up to a 6, you can get a $300 discount and the cutter for free if you do that. So let me, if anyone's been on the fence about it, then you can give me a bell about that one too. But other than that, I think that's it. I just wanted to basically go over the seed staging area and show you that I'd made some progress there, because I kept on saying I had and then not showing you. And record the fruit trees, partly for you guys, partly because I really wanted to have this on film too, because so for next year I can have a look at a comparison of what happened with fruit trees this year and the sizes and things like that, and then that helps me feel like that progress is made as well. So we'll get that too. Anyway, I think that was all from me for today. I will try and get the what we eat in a week video out tomorrow or the next day. And I'm going to do the garlic this week as well, the garlic conserva and the marinated garlic. So I will share that. And we get the hamper next weekend. So I'll share that too. So I will see you on the next video, guys. Thank you very much for joining me today. And thank you for watching. Bye, guys.